Have you ever wondered how some decisions can completely change the course of a sport? Well, it seems that some people are now realizing the big mistake it was to remove South Africa from Super Rugby. South Africa's departure from Super Rugby still sparks controversy, and for many, it marked the beginning of a steep decline in a tournament that was once the most prestigious in the Southern Hemisphere. For those who don't remember, Super Rugby began in 1996 with the top teams from Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, quickly becoming a global reference. For more than 20 years, we witnessed epic battles that attracted fans from all over the world. However, after the 2020 pandemic, everything changed. With the suspension of Super Rugby, New Zealand and Australia decided to go their separate ways, creating Super Rugby Aotearoa and later Super Rugby Trans-Tasman and Super Rugby Pacific. And what happened to the South African teams? They were left behind. The Bulls, Lions, Sharks, and Stormers were forced to seek refuge in the United Rugby Championship and eventually compete in the European Champions Cup. Meanwhile, the Cheetahs, excluded from the URC, now compete in the Challenge Cup. All the while, Super Rugby, once the most exciting tournament in the Southern Hemisphere, began to lose its shine. Israel Dagg, a big name in New Zealand rugby, has made his dissatisfaction with this split clear. He laments the exclusion of South African teams and doesn't hide the negative impact it has had on Super Rugby. "We are stuck down here in the middle of nowhere, aren't we? And we can't seem to get any resolution between both sides. So look, it's bloody sad," Dagg said in an interview with SENZ Radio. He didn't stop there. In a tone of frustration, Dagg continues to question how it got to the point where South Africa, one of the strongest rugby nations in the world, was left out. "We've harped on about the South African exclusion from Super Rugby and what a big downward it's been. I can't understand how we've done it. We've talked about it on the show and read all the conversations online, and people are like, well, you got rid of us, you don't want us. I'm just thinking, how the hell do we not want South Africa a part of our own system here? It's been a downward spiral." For Dagg, the South African exit marked the beginning of a downward spiral for Super Rugby, which no longer has the same global impact. This isn't the first time he's raised the issue. Before this year's Super Rugby Pacific final, Dagg once again expressed his nostalgia for the epic clashes with South African teams. "I went down a rabbit hole. I know we should be focusing on the now and what's ahead of us this weekend. But man, I miss South Africa being a part of Super Rugby." So, the big question remains, did Super Rugby lose its soul when it parted ways with South Africa? Are the South African teams better off in the URC, or is it time to reconsider this split? After all, we're talking about a partnership that elevated the level of global rugby for over 2 decades. Now, I want to hear from you. Was it a mistake to exclude South Africa from Super Rugby, or have the South African teams found their true place in the URC? Leave your opinion in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on these controversial discussions about the future of rugby.